What up, everybody? My name is Robert Moses Dreyer, and hopefully you went through Romans 2 through 10 in our last video. We talked about the beginnings of method, appropriation, and continue to kind of push the Old Testament references as a major context to understanding Romans. And hopefully I got you thinking last time, but you're probably going, you didn't spend much time on the actual text and what it means. Exactly. By example, I illustrate what Paul is doing here by setting something up and then breaking it down to get to a larger point. And I did kind of explain on all that really needs to be understood for these few verses. He is redefining everyone's conception at the Roman church, what they think about God's justice. Remember, I said in verse 6, he quotes and alludes to a psalm and a proverb. Well, let me help you out here so you could see what Paul is inferring. Before we do that, just be mindful that this is a letter, all right, written 2,000 years ago. It has a context, and it's what scholars call an occasional letter. That means it was written for an occasion, for a purpose. So it's kind of like getting in on a phone conversation. You got to really catch the allusions and think about them in order to get the sense Paul is trying to get. At the end of Psalm 62, the psalmist writes, "Once and for all, God has spoken through Jesus Christ." Now, the psalmist didn't write that, but obviously, in context, this is what Paul is referring to. He is obsessed with Jesus and Christologically raising the bar for the Romans on their ethics, as has been my real thesis for all these videos. The psalmist goes on, "Twice I have heard this. The power belongs to God. And you, O Lord, your loving kindness, you, God, recompense people according to their work." The emphasis should be on loving kindness and the justice God has. It's not in the deeds they do for justification, for their quality of life. You can think of it this way: well, because I have such and such title and I'm in charge of A, B, and C, I'm justified to do what I do over you and judge you the way I do. And you could hear someone responding something like, "Shoot, well, because this is actually my case and my job, and I was been doing this more than you have this particular case, you don't understand. I don't care what your title says. I'm justified to do what I do." You may have had such feelings at work between your boss, or you may have been a boss and had such feelings to justify your actions, and there may have been a conflict in the past under such circumstances. This is what Paul's inferring, but look at the way he is using the Psalms here. And if you turn to Proverbs 24:12, you'll get a cool quotation too. It said, "If you say, 'See, we did not know this,' does Jesus not consider it he who weighs a person's heart? And does he not know it, the one who keeps your soul? And will he not render to everyone according to their work?" This Proverbs, under the light of Jesus, is intimate. This is someone who knows everyone's heart, who weighs the full picture, who's not just in a position of power. In fact, power is breaking down here because he has conquered the powers of sin, death, and evil. So, on top of reprogramming the literal reading of Romans and seeing Paul's theme that is emerging here, how he's breaking down people's perceptions about judgments they make on each other, and he's explicating what God's justice really looks like. I mentioned in the last video appropriation. And appropriation here is important to start learning and thinking about. Think about how Paul appropriates and rejiggers the whole thing. He is trying to reprogram people's minds on how they think about God. It's about Jesus. It's all about Jesus. And we cannot have the same conceptions we intuitively have. We cannot build our relationships on power and expect things to just work out. No. Christ defines justice through faith, hope, and love. A power that only He can give through the grace of His cross and resurrection and the power of His Holy Spirit. A direct, intimate, basic relationship deposit of His presence in your life. May you ever consider how God is breaking down the powers of this world and situating you beyond justice into mercy and grace through the love of Christ. Peace.